2, 1.
All right, welcome back, rookies. We got week 3 coming up. Week 2 with upset weekend. We go at it early. Look, I went 7-9 straight up. My free pick hit by halftime with Cowboys Saints going way over and my premium picks were 4-2-1. I missed on the Broncos and Panthers on those premium picks, but cashed on the Browns under Tampa Bay, the outright winner. I had the points on that one on my premium picks. Bengals covering while I pushed the Seahawks game and obviously the over. Jeff, how was your week 1 performance straight up and with your premium picks?
So you made up one game on me. I went 6-10, so it looks like I'm 20-12 so far this season. And my premium pick hit last week, but my against the spread was horrendous. It was one of the worst I've had, 4-12.
Yeah, tough week. And the bookies and Vegas made out like bandits, rookies. We got to get that money back this week in week 3. Hey, Rookies Beat Bookies is up on X, Instagram, TikTok. Although we haven't been putting a lot out, we'll just get some more content out there. And come check us out at rookiesbeatbookies.com, and we'll get this video up. I know we've been missing the last couple. Hope you've been catching us on YouTube when we put them up. Email us if you're interested in our premium picks, 150 you get for the whole year, and reach out to us. Hey, my key betting takeaways from week 2. So Jeff, Baker Mayfield, he's a legit MVP candidate with that Bucks team. Really like how he's playing. I don't think we've ever seen the Ravens, 49ers, Eagles, Lions, and Cowboys all lose in the same weekend. If you'd had that parlay against those to win, you would have probably, bought yourself a Lamborghini on Tuesday. The Steelers look really good early. My question is, can they keep it up? Offensively, they're not scoring a lot, but defensively, they are really playing well. And I got to tell you, Jeff, that Packers defense is legit. They are legit. They kept the Packers in it, and they only had to score 16 points. And that's going to be a tough. You really have to consider that Packers defense when you're looking at over unders. Jeff, which week 1 takeaways are you looking at and focusing on today?
Well, as far as Green Bay, I have been impressed with them with Jordan Love going out and being able to hang on. So they've made me rethink how good the rest of the team is. San Francisco and Baltimore both losing since I picked those two in the Super Bowl was a pretty big surprise, although there's a lot of injury issues for San Francisco, which is, kind of contributed there. And overall, the main theme for week 2 seemed to be injuries. There were so many across the board and a lot of offensive line issues. So that's the thing that my stats tend to struggle with is the non-quarterback injuries. That's the thing I'm watching this week.
Yeah, so let's talk about injuries, Jeff. I'm glad you brought those up. We had some key injuries. Obviously, Tua, he's going to be out for a couple weeks, maybe longer. Obviously, hope the best for that. Jefferson leaving in the third quarter is huge. He said it wasn't serious. I think you got to continue to watch that. Cup is going to be out with an ankle, so you got Puka and Cup out. I don't know where the offense comes from. Los Angeles Rams. Pacheco's ankle is going to be a big one, Jeff. I mean, that offense, he really adds that running dimension to it.
Mhm.
That plus you got Clyde Lair, he's out, so now you're going to looking at your third string running back, and I don't know who the guy is. It may be a guy like Mason, like from the 49ers. He comes in and busts 150. All I'm saying is it's something to look at if you're looking at the Chiefs. And then you had Herbert. He had X-rays, so you need to watch that one. I think it turned out that he's going to be able to play, but I wouldn't expect a lot of passes coming out of the Chargers. I think they're going to double down on the run, and they're already running for over 200 yards a game. They are pounding the rock. So with Herbert being even gimpy at least, they're not going to run. So now look at the under on that game coming up for the Chargers and the Steelers. And then Hill for the Saints, he didn't return. So Taysom Hill, their tight end. And then the Jets lost, looks like they lost their linebacker Johnson to an Achilles. And CJ Mosley, another linebacker, did not return for the Jets. So that, in addition to all the linemen that are very difficult to figure out who's in or who's not, you really got to watch this week on those offensive linemen. So, Jeff, any key injuries that I missed that have stuck out to you?
No, I think you got the big one, especially. I think Pacheco may be an end of the year bonus because he's going to be more rested for the stretch run, but for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I think that's going to hurt Kansas City. So I definitely factor that one in to my betting.
Well, rookies, we're going to start with Thursday, even though it's a little bit late here. So the game may have already started. We're not going to take a look, but Thursday we have another key divisional rival, Jets hosting the Pats, favored by 6.5. Over under at 38 and a hook. Pats lost a close one in OT to the Seahawks and potentially will be without Bentley and O'Shane Zemus. The Pat O line looked good running the ball for a total of 185 yards, which could expose those linebackers that are hurt on the Jet squad. They continue to dominate the time of possession as well. The Pats do. The Jets lost Johnson, a key part of their defense, and maybe Mosley. The offense is mid and might struggle against the Pats D. They're balanced on offense. I lean to the under here, Jeff, and the Jets to win straight up, but 6.5 seems a bit too many for me. Who do you like on Thursday night?
So I think this will help me figure out the New England defense and whether they're for real. I think the Jets offense is pretty mid, but I think they're at least solid. And I'm not sure if New England's faced that yet. So if they come through this week, I will start paying more attention to New England. I've still got New York winning this one, and I've got them slightly covering. And I had to adjust my, you know, spreadsheet because we've got Aaron Rodgers in instead of last year's terrible quarterback play, which still skews my numbers a little bit. And I thought New England was going to be terrible coming into the year. If they hang close in this one, I'm going to have to rethink that team.
Yeah, for sure, Jeff. That offensive line is they're running the ball really well. If you've watched that scheme, it's not that bad. And Jacoby Brissett is a seasoned veteran quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. Problem is, he also doesn't push the ball downfield. So I mean, this is you think this is an under machine. Of course, last week they went over the total, so you don't know. It's the NFL. Hey, next up, the Browns host the Giants coming off a nice win against the Jags in week 2. Cleveland is favored by 7. Wow, that's too many. The over-under is 38 and a hook. The defense is back after week 1 loss to the Cowboys, but they may be without Garrett and the other edge rusher. Now, his name doesn't jump out at me, but they may be without both of them. They sacked the Jags 4 times and held the Jags to 3rd and 9 on third down conversions. Unfortunately, their offense continues to struggle on third down, going 2 of 14 on third down conversions, Jeff. That's just horrible. You can't win in the NFL that way, and you certainly can't cover 7 points. They continue to run the ball well and were able to move the ball through the air. The Giants lost a close one. I mean, look, they should have won that game if their field goal kicker hadn't gotten hurt in warmups. I don't know why your punter can't make some extra points, though. That's kind of on you as a team. Their D's played well, and look, they scored 3 touchdowns. So I mean, I kind of like them. I like the Giants here to stay within the number. They may even get the win, and I would lean to the under here just because even without the key defensive players, Ward at the corner and Garrett maybe at linebacker. You got to watch those two. If they can't go, or even if they're hobbled, I mean, there's that Browns defense is still going to hold the Giants. So Jeff, which quarterback gets the win here?
Oh, I'm still going Cleveland. My spreadsheet is leaning that way for both the straight up and with the points. And although one of the surprising things this through this first 2 weeks is that Daniel Jones is the highest rated quarterback in the NFC East, which I would not have thought going into the year. But I'm going to stick with my spreadsheet because I still think Cleveland is strong on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which I think wins games. And Daniel Jones, to me, is still going to make some mistakes when the pressure gets on him. So I'm going Cleveland here.
All right, Cleveland is where we diverge, Jeff. I am sticking with my Giants pick. Hey, next up, two hard luck teams face off. The Packers traveling to Tennessee. The Titans are favored by 1.5. Over unders at 37 a hook. The Packers D kept the Colts to 10 points and did enough on offense to get the win. You know, I don't know if you've tracking this, but a lot of teams do pretty well after their in the first game back after their superstar kind of goes down. But then the game after that, they tend to have a letdown. I think we're going to see that. The Titans lost a close one to the Jets, came up short at the end of the game. Titans are 2-1 since 2016 in this matchup and got the last one in 22. Look, the Titans quarterback has played well, but third down efficiency at 5 and 12 remains a problem. And he's turning the ball over too much, but he's still moving the ball. They are moving the ball. I like the Titans here at home to get a win, and we would lean to the under just because I think the Packers are going to run the rock a lot and try to keep that defense, you know, keep the offense on the field as long as they can, and not put it in the hands of the arm of Malik Willis to win. Jeff, can the Pack continue to win without Love?
So I don't have any stats to reference what you're talking about, but just thinking back, I do see that. I see a lot of times where they'll rally for a game or two after the superstar goes down and then fall back to earth. My my spreadsheet says Tennessee is a slight favorite, so this is one of those split games where I think they'll still pull it out. But if I were going to bet anything, I'm probably betting Green Bay to cover the spread and maybe even win this game. So that's the way I'm leading, although it's a really close game.
All right. A lot of divergence this week, Jeff. Hey, next up, the Colts host the Bears at home, a favored by 1. The over-under set at 45 and a hook. Given how strong the defense of both these teams have played in week 2, the total seems a bit too many. Colts held the Pack to 16 points, but gave up 260 yards rushing. The Colts offense struggling, turning the ball over 3 times. We're only 2 and 9 on third down efficiency. The Bears could not protect Williams for a second start, giving up 7 sacks to the Texans. The Bears D is playing very well, holding the Texans 19 points. And really that first week loss, they didn't really get scored on. It was really the Titans defense that beat them. Williams continues to show flashes, and getting Allen back into the mix will provide a target that he knows how to get open. So when Keenan Allen gets back on the field, I think this Bears offense is going to look better, but not this weekend, Jeff. I like the Colts to win. Let's pick them basically at home, and we lean to the under. Jeff, does Caleb get his first win of the season?
He doesn't. I have not been impressed with him, although physically he's got all the tools. So I think he can certainly turn it around, but I don't see it happening quickly this year. And I do. So typically on my spreadsheet, anything less than a field goal difference from Vegas's point spread, I tend to stay away from. And this is right on the edge. It's a 2.7 point advantage to Indy over the Vegas spread. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Indy, but I'll probably stay away from this game as far as betting it.
I take that back. They did get that first win in that Titans game, but I would say Williams didn't get it for them as really their defense. Hey,
Defense
next
and
up,
special teams. Yep.
defense special teams. Hey, next up, the 2-0 Vikings host the 2-0 Texans in an early test for the Texans offense. The Texans are favored by 3.5 on the road. The over-unders at 46 and a hook. As we look at this game, we need to look at the Jefferson injury. A couple of thoughts as we look towards at this D, and the Vikings D is very aggressive and got after Purdy last week. Really 6 times, turned the ball over twice. This will likely be exploitable by the Texans. This aggressiveness that the Vikings defense shows. So I expect them to push this ball down and to Dell, Collins, and Diggs. And I feel like there's going to be a couple of big plays here that are going to really turn the tide against the Vikings at home. It did not work well against an aggressive Bears defense last week. So defensively, I expect the Texans to tee off and get after Darnold, who was sacked 3 times and threw a pick last week. Historically, these teams have played 5 times, and the Vikings are 5-0. So that's an interesting stat to think about. The Texans have never beat the Vikings. So expect the sharp money to come in the Vikings at the end, despite this historic record. And I would wait on this bet until this thing gets down because the sharp money is going to come in on Friday night or Saturday, and I think they're going to bet down this line. I like the Texans here, and I see it as an over. I'm sorry, I see it as an under. And if you could get it at 2.5 for the Texans, I prefer that to 3.5. Jeff, do the Vikings go 6-0 against the Texans? What are we thinking?
So that's an interesting stat because I didn't go back that far to look. But one thing I did look in history, after they beat San Francisco last week, is that that's two in a row against San Francisco. So there's something with Minnesota playing San Fran that's given them advantage. I don't think they're better than San Francisco. I think it's just a matchup issue. So when I look back at this game, I think they'll come back down to the matchup numbers, which tells me that Houston is a better team and that they're going to win this game by about 5 points. So I feel comfortable with Houston winning and covering the spread.
Yeah, Jeff, I do too. This is close to my free pick, and I would allow that sharp money to come in because oftentimes when you have that historic number there, you'll get sharp money that just says, "Yeah, I see what I see, but until a team proves me wrong, I'm going to go the other way."
Mhm.
Remember last year, it was the Jets and the Eagles, and first time ever, I forget which team, but 13-0 was one side, and they lost. So it was 13-1 now, right? But all the money came
Mhm.
in on that 13-0 team. I think it was the Eagles were beating the Jets, and the Jets actually came back and beat them. But you have to check me on that. Hey, next up, the Saints and their high-powered offense host the Eagles in the Big Easy for an early shootout with possible playoff implications. The Eagles are road favorites by 2.5, and you got to check that number. It may have changed since I put that in. The over/under set at 48 and a hook. The Saints' offense is good. You overlooked their defense, was held the Cowboys to 19 points and the Panthers to 17. This defense was really good last year. They held Dallas to under 70 yards. I'm not sure that's a feat though, because the Cowboys don't really run the ball well. The Saints though has played lights out with a balanced attack, rushing the ball and throwing it very effectively. And you have the quarterback with the Michael Jackson dance in the end zone. I feel like that might have been a bit too much. And I feel like, well, we'll see how that works out for them. The Eagles struggled defensively in week one, bounced back a little bit in week two, but they gave up that last minute drive to he's my fantasy quarterback for the Falcons. My good Cousins. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a little brain fart.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Yep.
offense
Same here.
continues to expand with Barkley, and AJ Brown being hobbled continues to be an issue. I like the Saints here to win and cover at home. Would lean to the over. Feels like the Saints though can score and expect the Eagles to score at least 23 to 26 points in this one. Jeff, who gets the win in the Big Easy?
So I like your idea on the over until somebody starts slowing down New Orleans, which I think will probably happen around week 5 or 6. But early in the season, I think they've got a good wrinkle that people aren't adjusting to yet. So I think New Orleans scores quite a bit again. So I think they win. I think this goes over. And I think Philly is dangerously close to a coaching change as well. Sirianni is on the hot seat for sure. He's got a chemistry issue with the team. So if that doesn't turn around and they continue to struggle and bicker, I think you got a potential for this season to go south and a coaching change to happen midseason.
Yeah, you never want bickering on the sidelines and the frowns on the faces at the end of that Monday night game. Not a great look in Philly.
And
But
did
I
you
tell
hear that
you,
he didn't even talk to his players in the locker room after the game?
I did not hear that, Jeff. That's
He
interesting.
just
But I,
left.
but I tell you, those Philly fans can really put out some anti-cowboy memes and TikTok, and Instagram and YouTube videos, they are very creative against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys fans need to find their talent and throw it back at the Eagles. Maybe they'll
They
get a
need to up their
chance
game.
after
Yep.
this game in the Big Easy. Hey,
Yep.
look, a surprising game of two and 0 teams with the Chargers on the road in Pittsburgh. Can't believe we'd be saying these two teams are 2 and 0. Steelers are favored by 2.5, and the over/under is 36. That may have changed a little bit. Important injuries to look at is Herbert might be hobbled, but I guess he's going to be a go. The Chargers stayed out east, which is a big deal after their Panthers victory. Take a look here as the spread and the total are in question. The Chargers have looked solid in their first two games, and their defense has shined, holding the Raiders to paltry numbers. And then the Raiders turned around and kind of had a pretty big explosive second half against the Ravens, who's got a pretty good defense. So it makes you wonder how good this Chargers defense is, right? Awfully,
Mhm.
I feel like they're a lot stronger with Harbaugh at the helm because they're running the ball effectively. They're focused on the run. That means their defense gets a lot of time to rest. It was a pretty good defense last year, and it's looking like a really good defense in this scheme, right? So, I mean, you can have a good defense, but if they get extra rest, it becomes a better defense, right? So last week they held Carolina to 3 points, and they got two road games in the East. This is kind of a tough one here, and that's why the Steelers are 2.5 point favorites. It's too close for me to call. To be honest with you, Jeff. My lean here is to the over, though. With the Chargers winning on the road, I feel like when it gets to 36, I feel like something's going to happen, and that number gets over the total. Um, Jeff, did the Steelers team go 3-0 to start the season?
So I do think they go 3-0. I have really been impressed with Harbaugh. Again, he does seem to bring a certain swagger to the teams he comes in and coaches. So running game and defense both benefit from that. Unfortunately, they're going against a Pittsburgh team that has a defense that I think can stop that running game. And if you do that, then yeah, you do really have to figure out how good the Chargers defense is, which I'm not sure about yet. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh. It's a close game, but I think they win and cover here.
All right. Well, I think there's our third game that we're on opposite ends here. Hey, the projected MVP quarterback led Bucks Baker Mayfield 2-0, coming off their win on the road in Detroit, host the 0-2 Broncos. The Bucks are home favorites by 6.5. The over/under set at 39 and a hook. Haters gonna hate Jeff, but Baker's going 3-0 to begin the season. Bo Nix put up 240 yards in the air, but two picks and two sacks produced just 6 points in week two against a very strong Steelers defense. And that pick in the end zone at the end, not good. Defensively, the Bucks have not given up a passing touchdown this thus far this season, which is fairly impressive considering who they played. The one issue I see with the Bucks is their lack of third down efficiency in week two, and that could hurt them here. I like the Bucks to win, but see Denver keeping it close and getting this thing over the total here. But would wait until that number comes down a bit before I would bet the 39 because it could get to 38. But I think around 38, I'd jump in on the over. Jeff, does Bo Nix get his first win on the road?
Don't believe so. And just to make sure I don't contradict myself later, I do think Tampa Bay is a good team. But when I talk about that game last week, my takeaway is going to be that Detroit should have won handily because of all the stats showing me how much they dominated the game. But I do think Tampa Bay is a solid team. I think Baker is playing really well. And until he runs across, a really tough defense, I expect that to continue. So I think he'll play well again at home this week. I think they win the game, and I think they probably cover by 3 to 4 points. So this one's a pretty comfortable game for me here.
Okay. I still like Denver to cover the points. I think it's more of a field goal game. Hey, next up, the Raiders host the Panthers. I'm sorry. The Raiders are on the road. Or do they host the Panthers? Let me
The
check that.
Raiders are home.
The Raiders are home. Yeah, the Raiders host the Panthers. I'm sorry, rookies. I was thinking the Raiders are on the East Coast. They're not. They host the Panthers coming off an impressive road win against the Ravens and are favored by 7. The over/under set at 38. I lost on the Panthers squad last week, and they really can't be played. As They've got Bryce Young sitting, they got Dalton coming in. Don't know what that's going to do. I like Vegas to continue to put this Carolina franchise in their place. Take Vegas, and we get and would lean under until the Panthers team shows you up something. But I would pretty much stay away from this game, Jeff. Jeff, do you see any value here on this Carolina team?
So I hate that they changed quarterbacks because this is my free pick. And I'm going to stick with it, even though you never know what happens when you go to a new quarterback. But I've got the Raiders 17 points better than Carolina on my stats. So you could have raised this line another 10 points and I'd have still taken the Raiders. So this is going to be my free pick here, no matter quarterback change or not. But it will be a little bit of a boost, I think, to have somebody that isn't going to make the dumb mistakes and it's going to be just a steady hand. So it might be a little closer than my 17, but yeah, Raiders are my free pick for the week.
All right, rookies, you heard it here. Jeff's free pick is take the Raiders minus, I think, 5.5 at this point. Hey,
Mhm.
next up, the Ravens travel to Texas Stadium as the two shell shock teams face off against each other. Baltimore is favored by 1. And that was a line move of about 2 points. Over under set at 45 and a hook. Wow, 2 losses in uncharacteristic fashion. Cowboys D just collapsed in the first half, similar to last season when they played Green Bay in the playoffs. But then they righted the ship and only gave up 9 points in the second half. But the O could not keep up with the Saints in that first half and played even worse in the second half. INTs and sacks continue to play the Cowboys, and they should see an equal amount of pressure on Sunday from the Ravens defense. The Ravens had a second half collapse on D, losing at home to the Raiders. These teams don't play often. They're 1-1 going back to 2016, so looking back doesn't really do much for this game. I think this comes down to the Ravens here to win because they need it. Although the Cowboys need it as well. So I'm not betting the side here. But I am betting the over. So for my free pick of the week, I think this thing easily gets over the 47.5. I see the Cowboys at least scoring 28 points on this Ravens defense, and I see the Ravens at least scoring 23. I think this is a comfortable 5 or 6 points over. Jeff, can the Ravens get a win on the road, or are they going to 0-3?
Certainly think they get a win on the road. They are desperate, as you mentioned. They are a physical team, which usually causes Dallas problems. They run the ball well, which Dallas is without 2 of their defensive tackles, which already sucked this year. And they've got a running quarterback, which also causes Dallas problems. So I think you're over for Baltimore. That's easy. I think they're going to move the ball, score efficiently. Um, Dallas is a little desperate after last week, but Dak sometimes struggles with non-NFC East teams. He's very good against teams he's comfortable with and he knows, but he hasn't seen this defense. So I think he may struggle a little bit here. So I'm going Baltimore to win and cover.
All right, you heard it here first. Um, Take the over for the free pick, and Jeff's going with the Ravens. Hey, up next, Dolphins travel to Seattle, take on the 2-0 Seahawks. The loss of Tua will hurt the Finns' chances here. Prayers to him and his family for a complete recovery. The Seahawks favored by 6.5. The over/under set at 42. Look, Thompson is the quarterback. He's right-handed. Their left tackle is hurt, is questionable. That's not great. That's not a great outcome for the Dolphins.